Mere Conservatism.
David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker, and yeah, this is Mere Conservatism, and we have as much conversation off mic as we do when we actually do this podcast. And so we were just talking, and David, you sounded a little bit frustrated over the fact that there are a lot of folks, conservatives of faith, who actually feel that our faith means that we should not be in the trenches of the culture wars going on, or political wars going on.
I have so many words that I want to say.
Please,
when it comes to people I talk to about this, and it's very frustrating. And I'm going to refrain from saying a lot of the things that run through my mind when I have discussions with these people that say that Christians and pastors and churches ought not have anything to say about political matters, about political things. Because
what's the reason to give for that?
Well, because the separation of church and state is one thing they bring up, which they clearly don't understand what that is. In fact, I had one guy tell me, look, hey, the separation of church and state, that's a two-way street. No, it literally is a one-way street. The separation of church and state, if understood correctly as a concept, is a one-way street. That's when I want to say words that I shouldn't say.
It's to protect the right of the religious, actually.
It is a one-way street. It is the government staying out of our churches, not the other way around. Right. It is, in fact, a one-way street. So that's the type of thing people say that I just think it's foolish. I think it's a big, big mistake for Christians to withdraw and not be involved in politics, because you can refrain. You can leave the culture war alone. You can refrain from that, but the culture war will not leave you alone.
Definitely,
it's coming for you, and it's a fool's errand to think that you can operate and do what God calls you to do without having some awareness of the environment that we are in.
Well, the point you're making is even stronger to me than what you're saying. You're trying to be very delicate as compared to what you told me before we got on the microphone. But literally, that attitude, the attitude of the faith Christians backing out of the culture wars and backing out of politics, has created the vacuum that has put us where we're at right now. We created a vacuum where there was not righteous leadership or Christian morals and ethics being applied in the culture wars. So the devil's not going to take advantage of that, is he? You know what I'm saying? We created the mess, or at least I'll put it as we helped create the mess America's in right now by pulling away.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
And we do need our church leaders to lead their flock. And yes, on political issues, because these are moral issues in many cases. I'm not talking about
endorsing anybody.
I'm not saying that pastors should endorse candidates. I'm certainly not saying that pastors should say, what we need is a tax cut. Mm-hmm. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about, okay? No. I'm talking about drag queen story hour. I'm talking about abortion. Yes. I'm talking about the transgender agenda. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about gay marriage, which that was years. Cleve, you realize how long ago it was when the Supreme Court basically legalized so-called gay marriage in our country? It actually wasn't that long ago. Mm-hmm. And here we are now. The lines between men and women are completely blurred. This is exactly what we said would happen. In fact, I read let me think about how to say this.
Yeah, you want to be careful.
I read an op-ed that said that there would not be justice until two people met each other and it went on dates and had no interest or cared what body parts they had until they consummated the relationship. In other words,
I know what you're saying.
Male, female, anatomy, body parts, those kinds of things are irrelevant. It should be completely irrelevant to our relationships. The male-female distinctions are completely, they should be, is what these people are saying, should be completely gone.
They shouldn't matter in any way, form, or fashion by their way of thinking.
So they say until that is the case, then there is still transphobia and blah blah blah. It's awful. It's absolutely terrible. It's poison, and it is invading our culture. I mean, we have even our military, Cleve, which is an organization that used to be seen as, I don't know, the most conservative national institution that we had.
It was also seen as the most unified, non-racially influenced entity in the country too, because in the military, that was the place where everybody literally were treated as just another person.
And now we see the military muckety-mucks recommending that their soldiers read racist garbage like Ibram X. Kendi learning about anti-racism, which is actually just racism. That's what it is.
Yes, it is.
And whiteness and critical race theory, which again is racism. Yeah. Not only are they doing that, but they're doing things like drag shows on base. Did you see this at Nellis Air Force Base?
Yes. That
they had a drag show, the first time ever that they have done something like this. And they said it was essential for morale. Cleve, this is a terrible idea.
It is.
Why is this happening on our military bases?
It's destroying the cohesiveness and readiness of our military. And David, when that's destroyed, when our military is no longer as cohesive and the military in the mission is no longer true, when there's a vagueness like they're trying to bring in, the nation's entire security is shot and gone.
The truth is that we are in peril.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say this because I do have some good news that we need to mention. But before you can appreciate the good news, we have to be honest about where we're at. And I agree with you. Where we're at right now, currently, is the nation is in peril. We're on a knife's edge as to whether America will survive this. It can, though. I still hold out hope for that. I think hope is something that we need to not let go, at least not yet. Some good news. News that Americans are finally waking up. A lot of them anyway. And they're doing it the day before you and I were talking about last podcast. They're doing it on the local level. Loudoun County Public Schools is now seen as ground zero for the public controversies that are rolling around the nation affecting parents everywhere. Voices there are among the loudest, with a growing number of parents insisting that the education system is indoctrinating children with anti-American agenda. Now, this place it's about an hour west of Washington, D.C., and it's famous for its rolling hills and population growth for the last couple of decades. But now, parents are standing up. There was an explosive school board meeting, or more than one, where parents are demanding that the board actually be accountable to them. I actually watched this. I don't have the audio for this, but I actually watched this. One parent just pointed his face at them and said, "You work for us. You work for us." And he just reminded them of a simple truth that we've forgotten. We don't work for them, David, whether it's the school board or local commissioners, they work for us. And these parents, one or two were arrested, by the way. They're standing up, though. So to me, that is probably one of the best signs we can see.
It is a good thing. Now, you would, if you listen to the media, you might be lulled into believing that the CRT has just swept the nation. It's just a thing, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's what
and
they say.
Everybody likes it and agrees with it, and wants it taught. And they think that it's just teaching kids about slavery. Which, by the way, Cleve, I learned all about slavery when I was a kid, growing up in history class. Nobody ever talked about critical race theory or gave these.
Nobody tried to erase slavery.
No, absolutely not. And nobody. We didn't have to learn about slavery by talking about the white race and how white people as a group were inherently privileged, and none of that stuff was part of it. We just learned about what happened and the evils of it. Yes, that stuff should be taught. What is being taught is not really good.
No.
And like you said, parents are standing up. It's a good thing.
Finally.
It's not fun to see people get arrested and have to shout and yell, but they do need to make their voices heard, and
that's
we
my
need
point.
to do this. We need to do this.
They're
everywhere.
not being cowed into silence, and that's what's been happening. We've been afraid to even speak, and at least now they're saying, "No, I will be heard."
Well, homeschooling, we were going to homeschool our daughter, and that seems like a better decision every day.
Every single day. Now, it's still going on. A Colorado mayor tried to ban the Pledge of Allegiance at a town trustee meeting a few days ago. But committee members this time, who are, citizens from the community, they decided to recite it anyway. Silverton Mayor Shane Furman, that's his name, made the decision. He's saying, we got to eliminate it because there are inappropriate comments in and out of public meetings, and there's a general divisiveness about issues created in our community when we do things like the pledge. And
it's bad.
They said no. I mean,
this is bad.
Said no, and they recited it over him. And he just, what can you do?
So the Pledge of Allegiance is now controversial, apparently.
Yeah.
It's really a bad sign when that is the case. There has always been some controversy surrounding the Pledge of Allegiance. It says under God in it and stuff like that. I mean, that there's always – it's very mild. I shouldn't call it a controversy because it's not really that big of a deal. But there's always been some people that didn't like it.
Right.
Didn't really think that we needed to do that.
Even during my day, and that was hundreds of years ago.
And I grew up, too, doing the Pledge of Allegiance every day. And there were people in my class that didn't do it, which nobody cared. I mean, nobody cared if somebody decided to sit down and sleep instead of
that was their right.
Yeah. But this is also happening with the United States flag. There's a push saying that the flag is a racist symbol. I mean, they're doing the same thing to the American flag that they did to the Stars and Bars, the rebel flag, which is bad. I mean, now they're talking about flying the Progress flag over government buildings and stuff like that. The Progress flag, in case you don't know, Cleve, is the gay pride rainbow flag
color, yes.
Plus other colors coming in from the side. They redid this so that there's more stripes. They come in on the side. It's weird. It's
do you
a
realize
really weird flag.
At some of our American embassies, they recently flew the flag for BLM beside the American flag?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. So
there's a problem. The American flag is getting pushed aside as controversial. Now, if you think that the American flag is controversial, but this Progress flag is something that unifies, I don't know where your head's at. You know what I mean? Like, what are these people thinking where they think that is unifying?
Well, let's understand something here. Again, some people are genuine, and I'm going to use a word that you don't like to use a lot, and I said I don't like to use a lot, but some people are genuine fools, okay? They literally can believe the illogic of what you just said. They believe it. But there are others who do not believe it, and this is where the Marxists come in. They know this stuff is utter foolishness, but it is just emotional enough. It is just divisive enough to achieve their goals. So we got to understand the forces of progressivism. Again, they need to foment division and disunity and discord in any way they can. So it's intentional, a lot of the stuff. Not everybody. Some people are true believers in this foolishness. But we know that there are some who know that by roiling the emotions of Americans, they keep the divisions going on.
Well, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous time. But that is, like you said, that is the point.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do. They're trying to cause problems.
Biden is not a unity person.
No.
Biden came in to further intensify the division.
Yeah, Biden is out there basically saying, hey, you can't fight the government, we'll just nuke you.
basically, he didn't use those terms, but that's what he implied.
Basically what he's saying. I mean, Joe Biden he's always been a left Democrat, a far left Democrat. He's not a moderate. He never has been.
Never has been.
He looks like one because he was vice president of a also far left president. So he looks moderate compared to like Bernie Sanders, but he's really not. He's the same guy.
Yeah.
And here he is out here reciting the worst possible leftist argument for gun control, meaning which is basically that you can't fight the government. The government will just crush you.
Right.
Which is really a crazy that's a take.
Yeah.
That's a take because what you're saying now, you're just going to destroy us. That is supposed to make me not want to have a gun.
Well, it does.
What are you trying to accomplish here?
It accomplishes this. It encourages the other side, the progressives.
Yeah.
Because then they're saying, yes, this is what we're saying. Do an end run around the Constitution just get an executive something done against guns.
It's the stupid far left talking point against people owning guns. Yeah. It's always been a dumb point. It's always been a stupid point. Now we have the president who is making that point, barely audible, by the way. If you heard the sound clip, I mean, he sounds like Johnny Cash on "I Hurt Myself Today." I mean, he sounds like he's dying. All right. By the way, I love that song. But I'm just saying, like, the dying Johnny Cash actually sounds good on that song because that's what the song is kind of about. You're not supposed to sound like that when you're president of the United States.
He does sound and actually look pretty bad, does President Biden. He does. Now, speaking of Biden.
You didn't want me to go there, did you? But the gun control thing, I mean, Joe buy a shotgun Biden.
Yeah.
Is out there saying, if you're going to take on the U.S. government, you got to have F-15s and probably nukes. Yeah. Why would we need nukes, Joe? Because we'd have to nuke you before you nuked us? And this guy is, by the way, also saying that this point I saw on Twitter, which I thought was a really, really good one. Okay. Joe Biden is the same person saying that January 6th, the U.S. government was on the edge of being toppled.
Yes, he did.
By a guy wearing horns on his head.
Yeah.
Those people did not have nukes, by the way. Did you know that? The people that went in the Capitol on January 6th, they had no nukes. Well, they didn't have any weapons that we know about.
But Biden was worried about all those ghost guns that people carry.
So that supposedly was going to topple the U.S. democracy. Yeah. But Joe Schmo with an AR-15 is just going to get nuked. There's no threat there.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense on so many levels.
It does not, and it's not supposed to, and it doesn't have to.
And this is the president saying this. This is not some idiot Democrat on the left, and there's many of them you could use as an example. This is not some nobody that's some Democrat congressman. This is the president saying this. It's bad.
Speaking of the president, since you brought him up, his vice president, now according to the production of this particular podcast, this hasn't happened yet, but by the time you hear it, it will have happened. Vice President Kamala Harris will have made a trip finally to the U.S.-Mexico border. Okay. And the reason that she did it is, and according to the press secretary, Psaki, they just determined that the timing was right.
Oh, yes. I agree the timing was right.
And they said it had nothing to do with President Trump's announcement of a visit down there. So what say you?
Of course it has to do with – of course. Trump – he called them out.
He forced her hand.
Exactly.
Literally. It was a masterful move.
They had to do it. They had to go down to the border. And by the way, she's going to El Paso. It's not exactly the border.
It's as far away as you can get from the worst point of the border as you can get and still be on the border.
So whatever. I mean, she's going, though. So it's the optics thing. I personally, honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal whether she goes or not. I know we talked about this before. It's more important that they do something than it is that she just shows up for, I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah. The point is that they got outmaneuvered by Trump again, and it was easy. I mean, it was just like all he had to do was say, I got invited by the governor to go down there. I'm going down there. And now that they're like, ooh, we got to go first.
But here's why it's important, though. Again, it's not going to solve anything for Kamala to come down there because they're the one that caused the problem. But they had, for goodness sake, in their mind, to stay as far away from it as possible because they have been the only excuse that the media had for them not going down there in any shape, form, or fashion.
And it's not going to work for them because the story is still going to be, it took her X number of days to get down to the border after being appointed the border czar or something or other. And it's going to be that, and it's going to be she only went because Trump said he was going.
Exactly.
And so the border thing it's really bad for the Democrats. Kamala looks really bad in this situation. People don't like her anyway, but this really makes her look bad.
Here's some things that are happening. Again, good. I wanted to point out the good news about all this because another governor, I think it's the governor of Nebraska, has also said we're going to send people down there to help with the border situation. Mm-hmm. We're going to join some other states who are literally sending their people, National Guard people down there to help with that situation. So again, I said this a long time ago, it would be our governors, Republican governors of the states that are standing up against this rogue federal government. And it's happening. We're seeing this happen. And they're actually going to start building the wall, Governor Abbott and them. And Florida's going to help them. So that's good news. Again, this is what it's going to take, David.
Yeah, it will. And these governors that are sending down their National Guard, especially Ron DeSantis, he is so obviously running for president.
Well,
he's setting himself up so well to run for president, and that's a good thing. And by the way, when Ron DeSantis becomes president, first thing he needs to do is clean house.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, and it's going to drive the left crazy. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. They will believe that the country is over.
Well, really, though, you're talking about he should do what Biden did. Basically, in principle, Biden went in there and cleaned house. He put all of the Obama appointees, and got rid of anything that related to Trump out of there.
I say yes, but with one caveat.
Okay.
Biden didn't have to clean house in the bureaucracy.
Well,
they were all still there.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Those career bureaucrats.
Too many of them were still there, and they're still leftists, and they're still they're.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is he got to all the cabinet people and the
but
other
I'm not
people.
talking about the cabinet.
Okay,
I'm talking about cleaning house in the executive branch, which
How about
means
the Justice Department?
Justice Department, all that stuff.
FBI.
We're forcing retirement.
Yeah.
You guys have to go. And they got to find a way to do that. I don't know. Everybody in the executive branch works for the president, right?
That's what it's supposed to be.
That's the way it's supposed to be. So everybody, I'm talking chop the head right off of it and start over with your own people. Now, unfortunately, what's going to happen when you do that is that every time there's a new president, every president is going to do that. And that's not necessarily a good thing. I admit that that's not a good thing, but it's already a bad thing that the same people are still there, and the policies can't get changed by the president because the same people are there standing in the way.
I said all along, though, the situation now is one that has never existed before. We cannot treat this like the same old, Democrats and Republicans just kind of going back and forth. This is a Marxist takeover attempt of this country. And therefore, to me, you got to do, as long as it's legal, you got to do what you got to do as far as making change is concerned.
Well, and it's legal because the executive, again, the chief executive controls the executive branch. They can do it. Cleve, the Marxist takeover started a long time ago. And that's another thing I think that we need to remember, that this took this didn't just suddenly happen in the last 4 years or at the last election.
Right.
This is the long game that the left plays. And we have to first acknowledge that the left played a long game, and they're kind of being pretty successful with their long game. We got to play a long game too.
Well,
we have to realize that we're going to have to think about a whole lot more than just the next election. I think Republicans and conservatives can be, in some situations, bad about that. I think we're getting better because we're realizing what has happened, but we're bad about thinking that the country basically is safe and secure and our institutions are good and stable and the way we want them when they're really not. It's kind of like, you know what I think of? I don't know if this is appropriate to say or not, Cleve. So
but you're going to say it anyway.
You cut this if we have to.
Okay.
You watch Captain America?
Yes, I love Captain America. We
love Captain America and how he discovered during the Winter Soldier, I believe, that Hydra had infiltrated
the government, the U.S. government,
the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. They had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and they had been there for a long time.
That's right.
They had been implanted.
I had thought about that. That's right.
Just waiting to spring up and do their thing. They had kind of been messing around at the edges for a long time, making sure things didn't go too far. But when the moment was right, they sprung up and they did what they needed to do. And I think that the left does the same thing.
That's a great analogy, and I love that movie, but I never made that analogy. I want to bring up something real quick since you brought up Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Recently, he was speaking at a conference, I don't know, about a week ago at the Faith and Freedom Coalition's Road to Majority Conference, and he received several standing ovations. No other person who spoke got the response that he did. One of the things he said is that he is prepared, and this is his words, to put on the full armor of God to fight against leftism. I mean, I love that. And a straw poll, by the way, showed that he actually beat President Trump as the choice for the nominee. So nobody else does that.
So straws prefer DeSantis. That's what you're telling me?
No, I'm telling
straws.
I'm telling you, for the first time, there is somebody else who rivals President Trump influence and position with the Republican Party as it's presently constituted.
This kind of thing is what I want to see. Okay, so it goes back a little bit to what we talked about right at the beginning of the podcast, which is Christians wanting quote unquote separation of church and state. And not wanting to get involved with politics because they don't want politics involved with them. And they think that if they get involved with politics, it gives politics and the government license to get involved with them. Well, that's not how it works. Okay, the government is not allowed to infringe on your religious right. The Constitution limits government, not citizens. Everybody needs to always remember when you read the Constitution and you interpret it, the Constitution is designed to limit the government. It's not designed to limit you. So, that said, I like to see a Republican who is going to acknowledge the spiritual aspect of what's going on here and appeal to that and just say that he's submitting to, because when you put on the full armor of God, really what you're doing is you're submitting to God.
Yes.
You can't.
That's what he meant.
You can't put on the armor of God without submitting to Him.
And you got to also be preparing to fight.
Yes, and this means that he realizes that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers of darkness. And it's very true. And if we don't realize that, we're going to get beaten badly.
Well, here's the irony about everything you just said, and that's this. Those evangelicals who feel that us getting involved in politics and the culture wars invites interference in their ministries, the opposite is happening. Because we have not become involved, because we have not made our presence known and our impact known, we have put into place a government that is coming after. For the first time in my entire life as an adult, I have heard the government tell the church, you are a non-essential service. The pandemic brought that out. And you know what the church said? You're right. We are non-essential. And we
won't sing.
We'll do whatever you want us to do. Do you imagine what that means? The church has been declared non-essential, and the church accepted that. And now the government knows what it can get away with as far as the faith community is concerned.
It's messed up.
Yeah.
It's not good. So, Christians, you guys got to have a backbone.
Got to. It's that time. It's okay to bow down before the Lord. It's not okay to bow down before the idol of government. That's not okay. David, they can hear this entire spurring conversation again.
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a review. You can rate us.
Yeah.
Only 5-star reviews, please. We don't take the other kind. Also, YouTube or Facebook. You can hear the podcast there.
David Perry over there, Cleve Walker over here, inviting you to join us for another edition of Mere Conservatism. Have a great day.